Hi Year 12, this is part C of exercise 10.44. We are up to the point where we're completing a fully classified balance sheet. So as I was saying at the end of the last video, we need to separate our assets and liabilities into current and non-current. So our current are shown at the top and our non-current assets and liabilities are shown at the bottom. So the first step is probably to look at your 10-column worksheet, look at all your assets, and you can either highlight maybe the current and non-current, or you can just go top to bottom and fill in, here's a current asset, this one's a non-current, here's a current liability, there's a non-current, that kind of thing. I'm just going to go from top to bottom, so I'm going to list all the current assets just to give you an idea, and then we'll fill in the figures as well. So current assets, probably the first one will be accounts receivable. And then we need to less our provision for doubtful debts from that account receivable. So what we'll do is we'll just delete this one here. So we've got too many. So the accounts receivable figure from 10-column worksheet was 70,452. And then if we less our doubtful debts, our provision for doubtful debts, so it must be the provision, not the actual doubtful debt, so just the provision, which is 2,000. And then we can calculate that sum, so 70,000 minus the 2,000, to make sure that you have got your formatting correct, make sure it's all right aligned, oops, and we'll just underline those. Okay, so the next one would be your inventory control. So remember that current assets are any of those assets that will be used within the year, so within the financial year. So our inventory is 14,660. And then of course your prepaid expenses. Now it's really important not to forget those balance day adjustment accounts that we've added. So prepaid expenses we'll find at the bottom, which will be that $100. So then over in our third column we can total those up. Sum of those three, 83,212. Okay, the next step is our current liabilities. In this exercise there's 4, so we'll just insert another one. So of course, accounts payable, an obvious one. This one we don't need to do a calculation for, so it just goes straight to our second column. If we find the accounts payable figure, there it is there. GST clearing. Select that one for the 10-column worksheet. Goes there. 400. Bank overdraft. If you didn't have a bank overdraft, you'd probably have a bank account, so that would be sitting in current assets. The bank overdraft means they've gone into negative money, so we owe that. And then finally, we'll have our balance day adjustment accrued expenses, which is a current liability. So we'll pop that one in, there, 850. So in the third column, if we total those 4 up, select it, put a little underline just to make it really clear, and then our current assets minus our current liabilities gives what we call working capital. So this is what we can use in our business on a day-to-day basis. So we call that working capital. Now we need to outline all of our non-current assets. So again, like in the income statement with expenses, how we categorized into the 3 groups, we've got 3 groups: plant, property and equipment, investments, and then intangibles. So in plant, property and equipment, this is where you'll have your assets like motor vehicles. So we'll have the manager's car, figure in here. 10 column worksheet, manager's car, 41,550. And again, we need to less our accumulated depreciation. On that motor vehicle. So if we go back to the 10 column worksheet, we can pick that figure up, which should be directly below. Oops. Should be directly below. There it is there, 6383. Enter. Put those two figures in there. So we can sum those, put in a sum for those. So 41,000 minus the 6383, which gives us the value for that non-current asset. Now, we can delete any unused one because that's our only plant, property and equipment. In your exam, you will have items in both investments and intangibles. For our purposes though, we don't have any, and we've only got that one. So we're just going to put in a 0 for both of those. Be aware that you will have items in there. So if a calculation is needed, it'll be in the first column. If not, it'll be in a second column. And then if you've got multiple, you add those up to get a subtotal in the third column. So we can then so we'll find the total of those ones. So sum, we'll just highlight all three. Obviously it's just going to be that manager's car. And then we need to less our non-current liabilities. So in this one, we've got a bank loan. And because it's the only one we've got, put it all the way over in that fourth column. Go back to your 10 column worksheet, find that bank loan, 20,000, in there. So now we can calculate our net assets. So our net assets are going to be equal to our working capital plus our non-current assets minus our non-current liabilities. So we've got 55,162. This net assets, can you see how I've got a line above and a double line below? That should balance to our final figure for owner's equity. So first of all, we start with our capital. So the capital figure from the 10 column worksheet is 69,554. Then we need to add our profit. That comes from the income statement. So you put in your 9808 from the income statement. We can calculate those, so we need to add them together because profit gets added to the owner's equity or capital. And then we need to less any drawings that were taken throughout the year. So if we go here, we have 24,600 drawings. Put that in there. And then again, in this box here, where we've got the one line above, two below, put in a sum, and we'll say what's our capital plus net profit minus drawings. If you've done it correctly, these two figures should be exactly the same. If they don't balance, you can do a quick sum to find out the difference. So just take one from the other, and that could give you an indication of what you've done wrong. But in this one, we've done it all correctly, all works, balance sheet balances, our income statement is all correct in our proper categories, and our 10 column worksheet is all correct. So in your exam, you have to do exactly this. Obviously, it'll be with all different figures, different balance day adjustments needed. So you really need to make sure you know all those 7 we've talked about in class. And then you'll also have some theory questions. So make sure you know all the theory within chapter 10 of the textbook. But that is all for 10.44.